Okay, basically what I wanted to do, based upon a conversation we had, being that this is the Yahad, and we try to cover difficult subjects, I would like to go through some of this material here. This is the case for Lilith, 23 biblical evidences identifying the serpent as Adam's first failed wife in Genesis. And so whether you believe what's being presented here or not, that's really not the purpose of this. The purpose is for you to be exposed to the reasoning behind it. And so if you have an interest in sort of esoteric kind of information, some of the deeper things from the Bible, like I say, whether you accept or not, what I'm going to do is go through some material. And welcome. We'll go through some of this material and see what is it when people say they think Lilith is the serpent and that she is Adam's first failed wife. What basis do they have for saying this? Let me get my thing here. Okay. I'll try this one more time. All right. Welcome, Vicki. Welcome. We are also putting this live on Facebook for folks out there if they want to sort of get in on this. What I'm going to do here is forward that live stream to the Yahad in case other people want to get into this. Okay. All right. So what is the biblical case for Lilith? So we're going to go through this material. It says here, this chapter puts forth the biblical argument for identifying the serpent as Lilith. It presents 23 biblical evidences that I have discovered which support her case. Okay, so 23 evidences in this book that I have. Although each evidence considered individually may make an inconclusive argument, when they are weighed together as a whole, they form a cogent and hefty case for such a conclusion. The first 10 evidences support the notion that a woman was co-created with Adam before Eve. A woman was co-created with Adam before Eve, and that she was in rivalry with Adam. The next 10 support the notion that this first woman was the serpent of the garden, and that the serpent later came to be called Leviathan, the fleeing serpent. The next two established that there was a demoness named Lilith in Isaiah, entitled Aluka in Proverbs, who matches all of the critical features of the Lilith legend. Isaiah places Lilith at the crux of the Yom Kippur judgment of the nations. Interesting. The final evidence establishes that the demon Azazel in the Yom Kippur ceremony of Leviticus was the infamous seed of the serpent Lilith. In fact, the scapegoat, when they would throw him off the cliff, they would say, the high priest would say, for Azazel, as they flung that goat off the cliff. The collected evidences do not support all the facets of the Lilith legend. In other words, there's a lot of extra stuff. Don't pay attention to that. Just kind of consider what can be extrapolated from scriptures, but they do support most. Many of the few unsupported elements of the legend are easily assumed extrapolations of the events that must have taken place. One of the earliest evidences are briefly outlined below. Each evidence will be covered in more detail in a section dedicated to it in this chapter. Genesis recounts of the creation of a man and a woman 4 times. Okay, so we see in Genesis 1:26 to 29. And then in Genesis chapter 2, 4 through 8, and I'll read those right now. Genesis chapter 6, Genesis chapter 1, verses 6:29. And 26 to 29. Okay, so this is in the King James. And Yahweh said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea. Notice it says in this creation account, it says, let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So Yahweh created man in his own image. In the image of Yahweh created he him. Listen to this, male and female created he them. That's one of the differences between this creation account and the second creation account, because the second creation account, Yahweh created man, Adam, but Eve was taken from man. It appears to be a different creation account, and this theory ties into that. And Yahweh blessed them, and Yahweh said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, over every living thing that moves upon the earth. And Yahweh said, behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it shall be meat. So they were perhaps vegetarian. Is that possible? Maybe. Okay, let's look at the second creation account. This is in Genesis. I think I might have Bible Hub on here. It might be a little easier for me. Okay, let's take a look at Genesis. And this is chapter 2, verse 4 through 8. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created in the day that Yahweh Elohim made the earth and the heavens, when no bush of the field was yet in the land, and no small plant of the field had yet sprung up, for Yahweh Elohim had not caused it to rain on the land, and there was no man to work the ground. And a mist was going over from the land and was watering the whole face of the ground. Then Yahweh Elohim formed the man of the dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living creature. Notice that. It only talks about the man in this one. And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the man whom he formed. Interesting. Okay, so Genesis chapter 5. Genesis chapter 5, 1 through 2. This is the book of the generations of Adam. Notice that before it was the generations of the heavens. Now it's the generations of Adam. This is the book of the generations of Adam When Yahweh created man, he made him in the likeness of Elohim. Male and female, he created them, and he blessed them and named them man when they were created. Okay, so that's in Genesis chapter 5. Okay, so these, it says here, they imply the co-creation of a woman with the man from the dust of the earth. Interesting. And so the creation account of Eve comes in the fourth passage in Genesis 2, 21 to 25. So Genesis 2, 21 to 25, that goes like this. So Yahweh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and while he slept, took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. And the rib that Yahweh Elohim had taken from the man, he made into a woman and brought her to the man. Okay, and then the man said, this at last is bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. Okay. So the creation account of Eve, notice this comes in the passage here. If I can get that highlighted. That the passage clearly indicates that Eve came later and was taken from the man's side. So there's kind of a mystery here. So let's go on here. A careful reading of the Hebrew of the second creation account of Adam in Genesis 2, 4 through 8 reveals that the woman, Ha-Adamah, was created at the same time as the man, Ha-Adam. Look at that. The woman at that time was called Ha-Adamah, and the man was called Ha-Adam. They were created at the same time. Interesting. The woman was animated by a mist which erupted from the ground and watered her face, whereas the man was animated by the breath of Yahweh, which entered his nostrils. The passages declare that these two are the heads of two rival generations, the generations of the heavens and the generations of the earth. Interesting. So these are just 10 basic justifications for the Lilith understanding from Scripture. Okay, so number 3, the first and third creation accounts of a man and woman in Genesis 1, 26 to 29, and Genesis 5, 1 through 2, clearly state that when the male and female were created, only the male was created in Yah's image. The female has not been created in Yah's image, is consistent with her being Lilith. Well, even of Eve, the Bible says that Eve was created in the image of man, and man was created in the image of Elohim. In fact, that's in Paul says that in the epistle. Let's see if I can call that up. Yeah, 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 13. Okay, and it says here, let's see, for Adam was formed first, then Eve, that's in verse 13, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman was deceived and became a transgressor. Yet she shall be saved through childbearing if they continue in faith and love and holiness with self-control. Okay, so he mentions that Adam was formed first, then Eve. Okay, so this is talking about Eve, Hava, not Ha-Adamah, at least according to this understanding. Okay, and the passage declares that two are the heads of two rival generations, the generation of the heavens and the generation of the earth. Okay, so number 3, third thing to think about. The first and second creation accounts of a man and woman in Genesis 1, 26 to 29, and Genesis 5, 1 through 2 clearly state that when the male and female were created, only the male was created in Yahweh's image. The female not being created in Yahweh's image is consistent with her being Lilith. She was created by Yahweh, but not in his image, for a demonic mist arose from the ground and animated her in its image instead. Genesis 2:6. Note that Eve would bear Yah's image, for she was taken out of Adam's side. So Eve had the image of Elohim through Adam. And that's what this says here. Adam was formed first, then Eve. So it came from the same line of creation. So Eve was in the image of Elohim through Adam, but apparently Lilith was not. Okay, and the first creation account of a man and woman in Genesis 1:26-29 states that Yah's original intent was to create the woman in his image. However, as number 3 above explains, only the male was created in Yahweh's image. Only the Lilith legend explains this thwarting of Yahweh's intention. The mist arose and preemptively animated the woman in Lucifer's image. That sounds a bit fantastic, but this is just a theory. So just take it with a grain of salt. Conflicting commands from Yahweh to the first woman and Eve indicate there must be different individuals. Genesis 1:26-29 states that after Yahweh created the first woman and Adam, Yahweh gave freedom to both to eat the fruit of every tree. However, Eve could have never received permission to eat of every tree. Now, isn't that something? That's Genesis 1:26-29. Let's take a look at that. Genesis 1, okay, 26-29. It says, then Yahweh said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heaven, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So Yahweh created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim, he created him, male and female, he created them. Now notice it just says the image of Elohim created him, but male and female, he created them. This I believe has to do with Lilith. And Yahweh blessed them, and Yahweh said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens, over every living thing that moves on the earth. And there it is, verse 29. And Yahweh said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth. So apparently at that time, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was, it sounds to me like maybe they were allowed to have that for some reason. And every tree with seed in its fruit, you shall have them for food. Wow. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so we're on number 5. Genesis states that Yahweh created the first woman and Adam. Yahweh gave freedom to eat both the fruit of every tree. However, Eve could have never received permission to eat every tree. This is because before Yahweh created Eve in Genesis 2:18-25, Yahweh warns Adam that he may no longer eat of every tree. Adam could not eat of the tree of knowledge. Thus, the prohibition against eating all trees is already in place before Eve's creation. Okay, number 6, Genesis 5:2 implies a dual creation from the ground for the first created male and female, because the common name of Adam was given to both of them. Isn't that? Remember in Hebrew, in Genesis chapter 5, verse 2, Adam is known as Adam, and his this female is Adamah. So it literally comes from the earth, whereas Eve is taken from the rib of Adam. Isn't that something? Only the Lilith legend explains the simultaneous creation of both the male and female from the ground. Lilith's rebellion explains why Yahweh suddenly rescinded permission to eat of every tree, why the tree of knowledge came to exist, and why Adam had to guard the garden. Interesting. Number 8, Lilith's departure explains how Adam suddenly became alone in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. The literal Hebrew of the verse reveals that Yahweh did not create Adam alone, but rather that Adam became alone after some time. Lilith explains how Adam became alone. Okay, so in Genesis 2, verse 8, the literal Hebrew states that Eve was made as a helpmeet for Adam, like one shown before him. Let's look at that, Genesis 2:18. Okay, Genesis 2:18 says, Then Yahweh Elohim said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him. And it says here, then it goes on to talk about how he had formed every beast of the field, every bird of the heaven, so on. Okay, so after Eve's creation in Genesis 2:23, wait a minute, up here. Okay, yeah, Genesis 2:18. Okay, this implies that a woman companion was physically shown to Adam before Eve existed. Interesting. 18, verse 18. Then yeah, it's not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him. Okay, it even implies that Eve was made as a replacement for his first woman. Only Lilith can explain this. Interesting. Number 10, after Eve's creation in Genesis 2:23, Adam awakes and exclaims upon seeing her, this time is this. This time is this. The Hebrew word for this time is only used when an event repeats, and a subsequent event is being compared to the first. Adam's use of this word implies that he is comparing Eve's creation to a previous creation, namely, that would be Lilith. The point of his comparison is that this time the result was bone from my bone and flesh from my flesh, rather than of the earth, whereas it seems to imply in the earlier creation account in Genesis, as opposed to Lilith's creation from dust, or rather mud. Number 11, the serpent was not a snake, but rather the most cunning mammal. Genesis 3:11 clearly states that the serpent was the most cunning beast of the field. In the Bible, this term refers to higher mammals that are soulish creatures that developed minds capable of emotions. Lilith best fits the unique description as the most cunning of all those mammals. She is considered a beast and not human because she does not bear the spirit and image of Elohim, but rather that of her father Lucifer. Moreover, with the mind of man and the animating spirit of Lucifer, she is certainly the most cunning. Okay, now I think probably that bears some explanation. At first, Lilith was not so, but she gave herself over to demonic forces when she would not listen to her husband. That will come in later. We'll talk a little bit about that. She gave herself over and therefore became under the control of demonic entities. And also, I think it's Samael, if I remember correctly, that was one of the 200 fallen angels that came down to Mount Hermon. He is reputedly her husband now. Interesting. Okay, number 12, welcome, Steve. The serpent's extreme intelligence and ability to speak is best explained by it being human. The Lilith legend provides the only explanation for the origins of this human. The general tenor of Genesis implies that the serpent's intelligence and ability to speak is not supernatural or unexpected, but rather the natural created state of the being. It certainly did not surprise Adam or Eve to see the spirit talking. Now, that's an interesting point. It is inconceivable that they would express no surprise over seeing an animal speak, let alone just a serpent. Now, I know that a lot of the churches, when I grew up, they said, oh, well, it must be that snakes had legs at the time. I don't know. All right, Genesis 3:1 states that the serpent became crafty above all the beasts of the field. Let's look at that. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 says here, now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that Yahweh Elohim had made. He said to the woman, did Yahweh actually say, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? Notice that kind of reasoning is very higher level reasoning. Okay, states that the serpent became crafty above all the beasts of the field. This means that the serpent had to have a human intellect. The Hebrew word for crafty literally means naked. It also means crafty because a naked mind that exposed to devious thoughts can acquire those thoughts. Only a human mind can become crafty. Furthermore, the serpent was not always crafty, but through some transformative event, it became crafty. The serpent's act of making its mind naked and becoming crafty mirrors Adam's act of becoming naked and coming to know both good and evil through the eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The two words used in Genesis are the same. This strongly hints at the serpent being human and on par with Adam. Only Lilith can explain this other human. Notice how the Messiah himself said to the Pharisees who were rejecting him, "You are children of your father," what? The devil. You are children of your father, the devil. So it tends to use that kind of terminology. You know, the word for devil is nachash, like a serpent or a snake. Very deceptive, very crafty, they're devious. They're really not about truth or straightforwardness. Number 14, the Hebrew noun translated serpent is strongly suggestive of a soothsayer, which is a human speaking through an indwelling demonic spirit. In the Bible, inhabited soothsayers are predominantly women. Lilith provides the only possible origin of a human soothsayer. All right, number 15. Lilith best explains Leviathan, which is commonly recognized as Lucifer in the form of the serpent of the garden. Leviathan is described in Job 26:13. Let's take a look at that. Job 26:13. Okay. And here's what it says. By his wind, the heavens were made fair. His hand pierced the fleeing serpent. Behold, there are but the outskirts of his ways, and how small a whisper do we hear of him. But the thunder of his power, who can understand? And that's also in Isaiah chapter 27, verse 1. Isaiah chapter 27, verse 1 says this. In that day, Yahweh, with his hard and great and strong sword, will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent. Now, notice that part there that says fleeing serpent. That's in the Lilith tale as we get further, because she flees from Adam, from her duly appointed head. She flees from him. And he will slay the dragon that is in the sea. And we'll find out later that Lilith decides to make her home in the sea. As the serpent fleeing from before Elohim and dwelling in the seas, this matches Lilith legends of fleeing on wings from the garden and her subsequent oceanic abode. First Enoch confirms that Leviathan dwells in the seas and adds that Leviathan is female. Isn't that something? Enoch says that right out. This again matches Lilith, Psalm 74:14. Let's take a look at that one. Psalm 74:14. Okay, and here it is. You crushed the head of Leviathan. You gave him as food for the creatures of the wilderness. Okay, speaks of Yahweh crushing the head of Leviathan. This matches Yah's curse on the serpent in Genesis, that Eve's seed in the form of the Messiah would crush the head of the serpent. And the deeper you get into this, the more you see these connections. The scriptures that you didn't quite understand before become very, very clear. Okay, number 16, Job 26:13 implies the serpent Leviathan's creation was analogous to that of Adam. Look at that, Job 26:13. Let's take a look at that. Job 26:13, and here it is. By his wind, by his wind, the heavens were made fair. His hand, let's see, am I at the right place? 26:13 implies the serpent Leviathan's creation was analogous to that of Adam, that it was fashioned by Yahweh through twisting and manipulating the earth into a golem. This similar creation supports the notion that the serpent was created at the same time of Adam and in a similar fashion. This is consistent with the serpent being the one woman, Lilith, created from dust of the earth. Okay, let's look at this. Am I at Job 26, right? 13. Okay, by his wind the heavens were made fair. His hand pierced the fleeing serpent. Behold, these are but the outskirts of his way. Okay, I'm not seeing where that is there. That there is that's questionable. I'm not sure about that. I'll put a big question mark there. All right, the literal meaning of the name Leviathan is joined one. It implies a continual and eternal connection between Lucifer and the serpent Leviathan. The serpent being fathered by Lucifer and animated in his likeness best explains this continual connection. This is because a simple possession of the serpent by Lucifer would be a temporary and reversible condition. The Lilith legend provides an explanation for this irreversible fusing event with the serpent. Lucifer became the animating father spirit of the serpent Lilith when his mist broke through from the depths of the earth and watered the ground of her creation. Now that could have idiomatic meaning. Exactly what that means, I'm not sure. It could have like some kind of idiomatic meaning. Okay, Job chapter 3, verse 8. Let's take a look at that. It says here, let those curse it who curse the day, who are ready to rouse up Leviathan. Job 3:8 implies that Leviathan is specially suited for instigating abortions of fetuses. This matches a critical feature of the Lilith legend, namely that she is a danger to pregnant women in childbirth. Okay, Isaiah 34 also indicates that Lilith is a slayer of children, also confirming the children slain aspects of the Lilith legend. So who's behind? You ever wonder why these hardcore abortionists, these women that get together and they have their hedonistic their hedonistic feasts and their hard rock stuff, and they get together? You ever wondered why Lilith is such a common theme? You see their signs, Lilith, there's Lilith everywhere, Lilith, Lilith, Lilith. They venerate this demon. They venerate her because they venerate her as the queen of women's lib, the queen of being able to kill children, and that's all actually a sacrifice to demons, to murder children by abortion. Let's take a look at Isaiah 34, see what that says. Okay, it says here, let me see if I can scan down here to see what they're talking about here. The serpent like Eve was a woman and a would-be mother. They don't exactly give us the citation other than the chapter. Okay, it's probably here. There the owl nests and lays and hatches and gathers her young in her shadow. Indeed, there the hawks are gathered, each one with her mate. I think that word owl is actually, that might be the actual Lilith, which is Lilith. But they translated it as screech owl in some translations. Let me double check that. Isaiah 34:15 in Bible Hub. We'll have the Hebrew there. Okay, Isaiah 34. I think that's 15. Okay. Yeah, there. Now in this case it says the night bird. Let's see what it looks like in the Hebrew. Okay, so yeah, there it is. I was right. Okay, so this is in Isaiah 34:14. Lilith is literally mentioned by name in the Hebrew in Isaiah chapter 34:14. Now, they really didn't know what to do with this word. They just called it the night preacher. What does that sound like to you? And it's Lilith. That's the Hebrew word for Lilith. It comes right out and names it. That's in Isaiah. Let's see here. Where was I at? Let's see. We're looking at Isaiah here for a minute, weren't we? Well, I hate it when that happens. Yeah, there it is right there, Isaiah 34. Okay, so we're on number 18. All right, so Job 3:8 implies that Leviathan is specially suited for instigating abortions of fetuses. This matches a critical feature of the Lilith legend, namely that she is a danger to pregnant women in childbirth. Isaiah 34 also indicates that Lilith is a slayer of children, also confirming the child slaying aspects. Okay, so let's look at that. It says here, and find for herself a place of rest. What I want is, I need the English again. Let's take a look at that. There shall be a gray owl make her nest, lay and hatch, gather under her shadow. There shall the vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate. Seek ye out the book of Yahweh and read. No one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate. From my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them, and he hath cast the lot for them, and his hand hath divided it unto them by line. They shall possess it forever from generation to generation. I think that's talking about the Father overcoming the curse of Lilith. It could be, but that's talking about there. Anyway, let's go on here. Number 19, the strong parallels between Yahweh's curse against Eve and against the serpent in Genesis 3:15 imply that the serpent, like Eve, was a woman and a would-be mother. They were to be the source of two rival seeds. The serpent's seed would bruise the heel of Eve's seed. That would be Yeshua Messiah. Remember, it says that in Genesis that the serpent would bruise the heel, but that the Messiah would crush his head. But Eve's seed would crush the head of the serpent. Okay, Genesis 3:15. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so Genesis 3:15 says this. I will put enmity between you and the woman. He's talking about the serpent. Remember, just before that, in verse 14, Yahweh is saying to the serpent, or to Lilith, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and above all beasts of the field. On your belly you shall go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. That could have to do with you're losing your, idiomatically, it could have to do with maybe she's losing her position, she's losing her power, she's, who knows. And it says here in verse 15, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and her offspring. Notice that there's an offspring of the serpent. And there's an offspring of Eve. This is in Genesis chapter 15. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And that's widely regarded as a messianic prophecy of the crucifixion. So we got the very powerful elements being played out here in this. Okay, so let's see here. So that, we just covered that. The two rival seeds, the serpent seeds would bruise the heel of Eve's seed, but Eve's seed would crush the head of the serpent. And that happened at the cross. 20. The curses handed out to the serpent and to Eve in Genesis 3:14 through 16 are the same as those of the bitter water trial for a wayward adulterous wife. Numbers 5:10 through 21. Let's take a look at that. First of all, let's look at Genesis 3:14 and 16. Okay, and it says here, Genesis 3:14 to 16, Yahweh said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock, above all the beasts of the field. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And here's to the woman. This is to Eve, then. He says this. To Eve, he says, I will surely multiply your pain and childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over you. So you know what that implies? That implies that perhaps before the fall, she really didn't have a lot of trouble with childbearing, number one, and maybe before the fall, she enjoyed quite a bit of latitude and freedom. Isn't that something? Okay, and then it says here, this is the bitter water trial for the wayward adulterous wife in Numbers 5:10 to 31. I think we're pretty familiar with that, but people can read that if they want to. It's kind of a long passage. Basically, the priest is giving like some kind of a mixture to drink, and let me look at these comments here real quick here. I just now seen these comments. She is a mermaid. You know, that's actually what I thought. myself, Vicky. I'm not, isn't that something? But she dwells in the sea, a mermaid. I wonder, and you notice the latest Marvel movie that came out with Jason Momoa, Aquaman. Notice how they portray the women as very, very, they'll have this kind of attitude, this kind of thing. It kind of comes through. It's interesting here. Steve says, I wonder if that's where they got the Medusa character from. Could be. Here's another one. Could this be where Moloch was derived from? We won't talk about Disney's The Little Mermaid. Yeah. Okay. All right. The son of perdition. Yes, this speaks of the reference she would have had to understand. Child, is this the ancient religion of Mystery Babbling? Yes, I believe it is. I believe it connects to all of that. I think it does. Let me see if I can get this. Okay, so now we'll finish up here. It says the serpent's curses matches those of the adulterous wife, and Eve's curse in childbirth matches that experienced by the innocent woman of the trial. Notice that. If the woman is guilty, she shrivels up. Remember that? Let's read that here real quick. It's almost like a supernatural thing happens to this in this situation. Numbers 5, 10 through 31. Okay, each one, let's see, Numbers 5, 10 through 31. Each one should keep his holy donations. Okay, here it is. Speak to the children of Israel. If any man's wife does go astray and breaks faith with him, if a man lies with her sexually and it is hidden from the eyes of her husband, and she is undetected, though she has defiled herself, and there is no witness against her, since she was not taken in the act. And if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he is jealous of his wife who has defiled herself, or if the spirit of jealousy comes over him, and he is jealous of his wife, though she has not defiled herself, then the man shall bring his wife to the priest and bring the offering required of her, and 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour. He shall pour no oil on it and put no frankincense on it, for it is a grain offering of jealousy, a grain offering of remembrance, bringing iniquities to remembrance. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before Yahweh. And the priest shall take holy water in an earthenware vessel and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle and put it into the water. And the priest shall set the woman before the master, before Yahweh, and unbind the hair of the woman's head and place in her hands the grain offering of remembrance, which is the grain offering of jealousy. And in his hand the priest shall have the water of bitterness that brings the curse. Then the priest shall make her take an oath, saying, if no man has laid with you, and if you have not turned aside to uncleanness while you were under your husband's authority, be free from this water of bitterness that brings the curse. But if you have gone astray, though you are under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has laid with you, then it says here, let the priest make the woman take the oath of the curse and say to the woman, Yahweh make you a curse and an oath among your people when Yahweh makes your thigh fall away and your body swell. May this water that brings the curse pass into your bowels and make your womb swell and your thigh fall away. And the woman shall say, amen, amen. So she's taking a curse onto herself. Now, if she's innocent, she probably doesn't have to worry about it. But imagine now the one that's guilty, she's still going to go through with this because she probably figures, this is hocus pocus. Then because she doesn't want to be found out, right? Then the priest shall write these curses in a book and wash them off into the water of bitterness. And he shall make the woman drink the water of bitterness that brings the curse. And the water that brings the curse shall enter into her and cause bitter pain. And the priest shall take the grain offering of jealousy out of the woman's hand and shall wave the grain offering before Yahweh and bring it to the altar. And the priest shall take a handful of the grain offering as its memorial portion and burn it on the altar. And afterward shall make the woman drink the water. And when he has made her drink the water, then if she has defiled herself and has broken faith with her husband, the water that brings the curse shall enter into her and cause bitter pain. And her womb shall swell and her thighs shall fall away. And the woman shall become a curse among her people. So literally there's a physical change that happens with a guilty woman here. Seems almost fantastic, doesn't it? But if the woman has not defiled herself and is clean, then she shall be free and shall conceive children. So it doesn't even sound like if the innocent woman will face any pain Although she sure did go through a whole bunch of rigmarole because her husband was a jealous rascal, you know. So this is the law in case of jealousy, when a wife through under her husband's authority goes astray and defiles herself, or when the spirit of jealousy comes upon a man and he is jealous of his wife. Then he shall set the woman before Yahweh, and the priest shall carry out for her all this law. The man shall be free from iniquity, but the woman shall bear her iniquity. I guess because the man slept with her. See, he slept with a woman who had slept with another man, not her husband. So he in other words, that's probably talking about where it talks about in Deuteronomy chapter 24, where it says, if a man, he is not to, well, it's kind of like how David, remember David, let's see, how did that go? Yeah, when Absalom came in and polluted David's wives, he treated them kindly, but he never had relations with them again. Maybe it connects to that. I don't know. Okay, so it says here the serpent's curse matches those of the adulterous wife, and Eve's curse in childbirth matches that experienced by the innocent woman of the trial. The serpent in her role as defiled Sota eats dust and is cursed in her belly, and she shall be slain by the promised seed of the innocent woman. Eve, as the innocent woman in trial, shall temporarily endure the pain of the curse of childbirth, but she shall be saved by her seed. Isn't that something? That reminds you of, but she shall be saved in childbirth in Timothy, right? This strong parallelism further solidifies the identification of the serpent as an adulterous female who has gone astray from under her husband, Adam. This could only be Lilith. Interesting. Okay, we've got a few more here, basic outlines of this. Isaiah 34 discusses a demon named Lilith. Remember, I showed you that. Actually, let me show you that in the Hebrew so that you can see what I'm talking about here. Go to Bible Hub. Okay, and that's Isaiah 34. Let's see here, 34. I think it was, uh-oh, I must have typed that in wrong. www.biblehub.com. Let's try that. All right. Isaiah. Okay, get down here to Isaiah. Okay. All right. And it's chapter 34, verse 14, I think. Okay. Okay, here it is. Okay, so notice all the ways they translate this in the English. Desert creatures will meet with hyenas, and wild goats will bleat to each other. They're the night creature. Now, the New International Version takes that term leet and translates it as night creature. Will also lie down and find for themselves places of rest. It looks like the night creature here in the New Living Translation. The night bird, look at that, night bird in English Standard. Here's a night creature in the Berean Study Bible. And the screech owl, King James translators, I guess they couldn't make heads or tails of that. How about the New American? The night bird, okay, the night bird. Look at this one, NASB, the night monster. The night monster. Talks about the night monster again, NASB 1977, the Amplified. Oh, look at this. They actually write it out. Lilith, night demon, in the Amplified Bible. So clearly it, she is an existing entity. However you want to say she plays into the narrative. Notice here, let's see what else. Oh, look at this. The Aramaic Bible in plain English. Look what it puts. Female night demon is rested. Female night demon is rested. Okay, and then now notice this. Now, let's see. This is the Brenton Septuagint, a satyr. Interesting. Satyrs are, they're like half animal, half human. That's interesting. Look at this one. Here's contemporary English version, creature of the night. Doesn't, actually, this is inappropriate. It should say creature of the night. It should say creature singular of the night, because if it was creatures of the night, it would be Lilith, Liot, but it's not Lilith. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Okay, the night monster, here it is, Good News Translation, International. Oh, look at this. Also, Lilith will settle, but it shouldn't be Lilith. It should be Lilith. Lilith is singular Lilith. Okay, so here's what it looks like in Hebrew. Okay, and so let's see here. Here it is, Lilith. Lilith. Look at that. Lilith. Okay. All right. Now let's look at this other one here. Proverbs. Did we finish this part here? Did we finish? Yeah, there we go. Isaiah 34 discusses a demon named Lilith who fulfills the critical end time role of the serpent as a rival against Eve and her seed. Isaiah places Lilith at the crust of Yahweh's final judgment of the nations in the end times. And that great day, when the lots of Yom Kippur are cast, Lilith is eternally damned to a land of withering drought, cursing, and fire. Her seed perishes and comes to nothing. Isaiah contrasts Lilith's eternal punishment with that of a woman named Isha. Well, guess what? Eve in Hebrew is Isha. Isha shares Lilith's, hold on, maybe I'm wrong about that. I thought that means woman in Hebrew. That just means woman. Hava is Eve. Sorry about that, guys. Isaiah contrasts, Hava means mother of the living, Hava. Okay, Isha shares Lilith's hellish abode for a time and suffers the same curses, but Isaiah reveals that Yahweh redeems Isha from that situation. You know who Isha is? That's the descendants of Eve, I think. That's all women. That Yahweh delivers them from the curse. She inherits God's kingdom. Isha was the name Eve bore during her cursing with the serpent. Adam later renamed her Eve. Isaiah is clearly discussing the ultimate end of the rivalry established in the garden between Eve and the serpent Lilith. Isaiah not only confirms Lilith's critical role as a serpent in the end times judgment of Yom Kippur, the prophet also corroborates many other mundane details of her legend. He confirms that Lilith dwells in the midst of the sea, that she is a deadly bird-like creature, that she is the slayer of stray younglings, that she is closely associated with a snake, and that she is the mother of failed seed that perished from a cursing of Elohim. Look at that. All right, Proverbs Chapter 30 describes a demoness titled Aluka, who is very similar to Lilith. Aluka is described as having a mystical power like that of a bitter water cursing agent in the soda trial, which is the spirit of Lilith. Proverb describes that when two types of barren women are given over to the power of Aluka's curse, two different outcomes are possible. For the woman who survives the ordeal, Aluka's curse somehow grant her a promised seed. But to the other barren woman over the ordeal, Aluka brings the curse of death. Okay, now we've got some rabbinic tradition stuff here. It says Aluka's rich and detailed mythos matches innumerable aspects of Lilith. Aluka was the mother of Estries, which are female vampires. Interesting. Common attributes between Estries and the spirit of Lilith include, number one, both have winged flight and a bird-like appearance. Both engage in the murder of children. Both of their powers were activated by unleashing their hair. Both of their cursed powers could be revitalized by deceitful eating. Both were constrained by an oath saying amen concerning either women was dangerous. The death or banishment of both were effectively brought about by filling her mouth with earth. Interesting. Okay, let's take a look at that Proverbs chapter 30 real quick here. Let's see here. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Estrogen. That's right, Vicky. I never thought of that. That's pretty cool. Let's see if I can. Let's get down to Proverbs chapter 30 and see what we have here. Okay, we'll go to the this Proverbs chapter 30. Let's see here and get down here to where it. Okay, look at this. The leech has two daughters. Give and give. Three things are never satisfied. Four, never say enough. Sheol, the barren womb. The land never satisfied with water, and the fire that never says enough. Let's see. Looks like. Okay, so this entire thing has got a lot of symbolism, isn't it? The words of Agur, son of Jakah, the oracle, the man declares, I am weary, O Yahweh, I'm weary, O Yahweh, and worn out. Surely I'm too stupid to be a man. I have not the understanding of a man. I have not learned wisdom, nor have I knowledge of the Holy One. Who has ascended to heaven and come down? Who has gathered the wind in his fist? Who has wrapped up the waters in the garment? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is his son named? Surely you know. Every word of Yahweh proves true. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. Do not add to his words, lest he rebuke you and you be found a liar. Two things I ask of you, deny them not to me before I die. Remove far from me falsehood and lying, and give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food that is needful for me, lest I be full and deny you. And says, who is the master? Or lest I be poor and steal and profane the name of my Elohim. Do not slander a servant to his master, lest he curse you and you be found guilty. There are those who curse their fathers and do not bless their mothers. There are those who are clean in their own eyes, but are not washed of their filth. There are those who lofty are their eyes, how high their eyelids lift. There are those whose teeth are swords, whose fangs are knives to devour the poor from off the earth, the needy from among mankind. The leech has two daughters, give and give. Three things are never satisfied. Four never say enough. Sheol, the barren womb, the land never satisfied with water, and the fire that never says enough. Isn't that? I bet you there's a lot in there. The eye that mocks a father and scorns to obey a mother will be picked out by the ravens of the valley and eaten by the vultures. Three things are too wonderful for me, for I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a serpent on the rock, the way of a ship. Look at that, the way of a serpent on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, the way of a man with a virgin. This is the way of an adulteress. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I have done no wrong. Under three things, the earth trembles. Under four, it cannot bear up. A slave when he becomes king, and a fool when he is filled with food, an unloved woman when she gets a husband, and a maidservant when she is displaced. She displaces her mistress. Four things on earth are small, but they are exceedingly wise. The ants are a people not strong, yet they provide their food in the summer. The rock badgers are a people not mighty, yet they have made their homes in the cliff. The locusts have no king, yet all of them march in rank. The lizard you can't take in your hands, yet it is in kings' palaces. Interesting. Three things are stated in their tread. Four are stated in their stride. The lion, which is mightiest among all beasts and does not turn back before any. The strutting rooster, the he-goat, and a king whose army is with him. If you have been foolish, exalting yourself, or if you have been devising evil, put your hand on your mouth. For pressing milk produces curds, pressing the nose produces blood, and pressing anger produces strife. Interesting. There's a lot of symbolism, isn't there? Okay, so this is in Proverbs 30. A demoness named Aluka. So I wonder where that's at then. It's probably Aluka is in the Hebrew somewhere. So where would that be, I wonder? I wonder if it's the leech has two daughters. Let me look at that. Take a look at the Hebrew on that. There it is. Ha-ha. La Luca. Give and give, three things. Okay, so Luca. So this could very somehow this has to do with Lilith. Interesting. All right, number 23. Lilith best explains the origin of the demon Azazel and the Yom Kippur ceremony of Leviticus 16. And that ceremony, Azazel plays a rival role to Messiah. As such, Azazel is the serpent's infamous seed, which Yahweh prophesied would bruise the heel of Eve's promised seed, Messiah. With the summary of evidence is complete, let us study each in detail. Now, I think Azazel is, actually, that might be in here somewhere. That's fine. Yeah, the scapegoat. There we go. Okay. Okay, so literally when the Bible says scapegoat, so this is in Leviticus, well, here's Leviticus 16:18. Aaron shall cast lots for two goats, one lot for the master, for Yahweh, and the other lot for the scapegoat. Now, look at what this word is here in Leviticus 16:18. There it is, Azazel. Look at that. So we've established that we have Lilith and Azazel are in existence in Hebrew, in the scripture. Okay, let me see if we have any comments here. I've got about an hour here. Okay, all right. That's all that I have to present today. I want to keep it down to an hour. But I plan to do some more of these, and this book is chock full of Hebrew connections. There's a lot of esoteric stuff in here. So I think it's going to be good for discussion. Any comments before we go? Any comments? Any thoughts? This is just a exploratory kind of thing. This is not a hard and fast doctrinal thing. I don't think we should be afraid of looking into these subjects, and eat the straw and or eat the hay and spit out the straw, rather. Eat the hay and spit out the straw. But a lot of people won't tackle this stuff because it's just too bizarre. But this book by Mark Wayne Biggs really goes into detail on this. And I plan to go through this book a little here and a little there. Yeah, thank you for that. I think it shows mystery religion foundations. Yeah. Lilith and Azazel obviously are at the root of mystery religion and idolatry and all kinds of things. Remember, if we read in the book of Enoch, it says that these fallen angels taught mankind many kinds of things that were not good, many bad things. And there was even an angel that's responsible for teaching women how they could get rid of their unborn children by mixing up potions and herbs and stuff. So anyway, I want to thank you all for joining in with us and watching this. Yes, we can see this in abundance in today's world if we look. That's right, it's everywhere. Have you ever wondered why Lilith is such a central figure in witchcraft? Do you think that they are so stupid that they just are using some word that's not in existence, some creature that's just not in existence? They're not stupid people by any, not the high ones. These are very intelligent people who are deep in the occult. They're totally sold out to Satan, and they know about spiritual realities. And so the Lilith, it's written right in the Hebrew in a couple places. Azazel is written right out in a couple places. So these figures existed, and exactly how they fit in, that's for us to discover, and with Almighty Yahweh's help. So please don't be offended if you're out there watching this on the Zoom, or I mean the Facebook stream. Don't be offended by any of this stuff. I'm just presenting this material, and you decide what you want to do with it. Okay, if you want to discount it and say, there's nothing to it. Okay, hey, I love you and Messiah. If you think there's something to it, hey, join us. We'll get deeper into this stuff. So Yahweh bless you all. This Sabbath. It's getting close to the end of the Sabbath now. But I will bid you shalom, shalom.